Okay, let me see if I can go live on YouTube and see if this makes sense. Um, let's see. So
So
let's yeah, go ahead and just kind of tell me what's going on, Austin. I mean, it's not like anything is going on in the world, right?
yeah, I know it's just been a casual day. I'm live on the scene. Actually, I'm in the Middle East right now, and by Middle East, I mean I'm in a car driving on an interstate, so that's close enough.
By Middle East, you mean like the backwoods of North Carolina, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean,
Which I mean, honestly, like
actually,
depending on where you go, could probably be like the Middle East.
yeah, I mean you're not wrong.
So what are you seeing? What's going on? I know you've kind of been on Twitter a lot and you've been seeing stuff and following this. What's going on?
Yeah. So as of right now, last I checked, the Iranians are launching a new wave of strikes. Yeah, it's definitely heating up. A lot of I'm trying. So basically, as of right now, there was definitely heavy casualties for the Iranian like upper levels of the military. The Israeli struck some is excuse me nuclear sites. That was the start as of last night, and then today the Iranians have started launching counterattacks. It's definitely heating up. We're still waiting for like clear idea of what was exactly hit on the Israeli side of it, but I think once it hits like daylight tomorrow, we'll start getting like more like satellites will start kind of showing stuff, and then I'm sure stuff will start leaking out pretty quickly. Like the last time in October, when something like this happened or something close to it, um, it took really the next day we kind of started getting some indications, and then it took a while for exactly the stuff to come out. So it may take a while, but at the rate this is going and the amount of like stuff that's coming out, I think we'll know something sooner. But yeah, I don't see this calming down anytime soon. The Iranians are talking like I've never seen them talk before, and I mean obviously this attack is the attack on them was a sneak attack. It was unprecedented. The type of the damage it did. I mean they really can't take this one laying down. So I foresee this definitely escalating. The big risk right now for the U.S. is definitely if they do go through with shutting down the Straits of Hormuz. That would be a huge deal because I mean obviously a lot of the world's oil and natural gas flows to that part. And I mean, we've seen from the Houthis in the last like 18 months that like, yeah, you can actually shut down these strategic waterways with like missiles and drones and stuff. So I mean, this can be a huge crisis. I know JP. What was funny was JP Morgan yesterday. I think it was thought that this could send oil. I think to like 120 is what they were saying, which seems ridiculously low to me. But whatever. And what's very funny about it is they thought this was like a low risk situation. So here we are. Definitely doesn't seem like low risk at this point. But yeah, pretty much.
Um, do we know what they struck in Iran? I know like they obviously got the guys who like they got the people in the leadership in the decapitation event. But what specifically sites did they strike? Anything of note?
So as of right now, what we know for sure is they definitely hit at least two major nuclear sites that were part of the Iranian nuclear program. They, from what the IAEA is saying, they definitely destroyed at least one. But the main site they that from their own from what I'm seeing from Israeli media, they struck it, but they kind of acknowledged they didn't manage to do any damage to it because it's like basically it's like a hardened structure, like I think they said like 90 meters underground, so that's like what like close to like 300 feet underground. So I mean, you about need like nuclear weapons to kind of get that.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've definitely hit nuclear sites. They definitely targeted like command and control centers. But beyond that, we really don't have a clue at this point. I mean, there's been reports they struck some oil infrastructure, but I mean, I've not really seen a lot of evidence for that yet. As far as the Iranians, um, they struck something. If they didn't, they either struck the IDF's headquarters in Tel Aviv or they struck something near it. So from the video and like the geolocations I've seen, it's either they struck the building itself or they struck a bunker that was near it. Now, exactly, from I've seen claims or slash reports that it was like an underground like command and control facility. That seems to make sense, but like as far as like confirmed, I don't know yet. Believe there was also some claims, and it kind of matches with the video coming out that they struck a couple of air bases. The Israelis have a lid on like like posting stuff right now, so we kind of got limited data coming out on that. But I mean, again, it makes sense. The Iranians did this before, so. And then the big thing is the claim is they struck Dimona, which is Israel's main like nuclear site, and then I believe another one. But again, we haven't had anything come out yet. Now that doesn't mean that hasn't been struck. I mean, the Israelis did right before the strike started, encourage their citizens not to post anything. So, like I said, this might take a few days to get confirmation on stuff. But based off the videos that have come out, it would seem like at least both sides are striking command and control facilities as well as anything related to nuclear.
So this goes back to you talking about the escalation that you're thinking is going to happen. Because like usually you do that to start kind of um the next wave and larger attacks, right?
Yeah, so the Israelis, after the Iranians counterattacked tonight, they were trying to say, well, you struck our cities, so now we're going to strike your city. So the Israelis are openly saying they're going to target civilians now. So we'll see how that goes. But
Well, I mean, Israel was kind of already striking civilians, right? Like
yeah,
I thought
that's
when they
that's
were doing the when they were like taking out like the leadership and everything like that.
they were
Um,
striking apartment blocks. So I mean,
well, that's what I'm saying.
it's
They were just like take hey like fuck it like we're taking out the entire
which
building.
which makes it kind of rich. But I mean, I won't get into my
Well, I
personal
mean, like
opinion.
my perspective on that was always kind of like you act like, and I mean, it's Israel, so it's like, who would have known or who would have guessed and everything. But it's like, you know, you sit here and you talk about terrorists like indiscriminately killing, um, civilians to like kill targets, and it's like, but that's kind of like what you're doing, like
Yeah,
suicide bombers and like all that kind of stuff that like Iranians and jihadis are kind of like endorse, and it's like, well, now you're just taking out a whole apartment block. I mean, I get like the Israeli perspective on it, but I'm just kind of like, yeah, like you're kind of like teetering on like a slippery slope here.
which, speaking of which, we're getting more and more video from Tel Aviv. So there's a new way. Like I said a second ago, there's a new wave of strikes. So not sure what they're hitting yet, but if I see something, I'll update it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean this. I mean you can't. It, I'm trying to be objective in the reporting on it, but it's like you can't sit here and take out launch. I mean, let's just call it what it is. This is a sneak attack. This was like a full on sneak attack.
yeah.
Even Trump came out and was like, yeah, we were just
We
doing the
knew, like we knew about it, and like kind of gave the green light, right?
gave the green light, and then the whole negotiations thing was to like trick the Iranians. And
Yep.
it's like you've burned any diplomatic credibility you just had for one. But leaving that aside, it's like this is no different than what the Japanese did at Pearl Harbor. I mean,
Yeah.
there's really no
No, that's what
other
I'm
way to.
saying. It's a decapitation event. Like this is literally what you do is you go in there, you take out all the leadership, you take out of all of the infrastructure that you can, and you basically like leave the country debilitated to where you kind of get to do whatever you want. You strike whoever you want, and you basically force the hand of the opposing country, and like that's what you do. And like, that's why like I was reading a book about like nuclear weapons, and that's why they were like, if they send something, what they're going to do is they're going to try to drop a nuke down in DC to just get rid of all the leadership, and then be like, okay, well, now what are you going to do about it? Like this is textbook of how to do it. So with the sites in Iran, have they gotten
So
everything? Has Israel gotten
to cut
everything
in.
that they want?
No, because they for sure the main nuclear facility in Iran they failed to destroy. That was
Yes.
reported by Israeli media. They got two of them, but they definitely didn't get all of them, and the main one they didn't get.
Which
Uh,
I thought that was interesting that they would say that. Like, why would you say that? Like, I know it's like, okay, it's gonna come out regardless, but like, I thought it was crazy that they're
I,
like,
I
yeah, like
I
I saw
think they were
Benjamin Netanyahu was like, yeah, we didn't get that site.
I think they were trying to. They're very much trying to set the justification for further strikes. Like I said, like almost instantly after the Iranians attack, counterattack, they're like, "Oh, you struck our civilian facilities, so now we're going to go after your civilians." And there was a report, I think, by I want to say it was either ABC News or Washington Post, was like, "Yeah, the Israelis are basically aiming for like not just a deep like a decapitation thing. Like this is seems to be they're trying to set up the conditions to cause a regime change in Iran. Like they're trying to hit like enough of like the government's like command and control facilities that like an uprising becomes possible." And I do know like some Iranian dissident organizations put out a statement today calling for a united uprising. So far, the response, from what I can tell in Iran, has been overwhelmingly in favor of the government. I mean, obviously, when you get a sneak attack on you like this, it's the political calculations in this. I think were very, very. They didn't really think this through. Best way to put it, because it's like I'm pretty sure I sent you several of the videos. Like, there's multiple videos coming out from Iran now where it's like civilians are out in the roofs, like screaming "Allah Akbar" as like Iranian air defense like engages Israeli missiles. So I mean, it's like we said like a second ago. Like this is pretty much a Pearl Harbor situation, and it's like I don't think they stopped to think through like, hey, just as Pearl Harbor united the United States back in '41, this could do the same for the Iranians, and so far that looks like exactly what's happened. Um, to just give an update, something big just blew up in Tel Aviv. The pictures that are coming out are absolutely insane. I have no idea what they hit, but like I'm going to send it in the group chat so you can kind of look at it. But this is absolutely crazy. Look at this.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
I mean, this is definitely one for the history books. The Israeli alert system is overloaded for like the second time today.
So this kind of goes to the question, and I was kind of, I was kind of getting some stuff from Politico. Obviously Ben Shapiro. I didn't look and see what he said, but like he posted something basically just being like Israel's winning. And I know we kind of talked about this, but like, are they winning or like are they like obviously you can't tell right now who's
Yeah, it's
got
going to
what,
take some
but
time to get. I mean, from like an initial gut reaction, I mean, they definitely caught the Iranians by surprise. Like, there's no other way to put it. And like, they definitely have dealt some damage. I mean, I haven't been able to go through the list to see who's been fully confirmed and who's not. But I mean, they did get a lot of the Iranian general staff. So I mean, that's definitely a blow. But it's also like, uh, you know, they've already appointed their successors. I mean, obviously, it's not prevented the Iranians from launching counterattacks. So I mean, I feel like this is. I mean, I would say, I mean, I would definitely say the Israelis have done more like flashy damage so far, but as far as like who's actually doing the most like meaningful damage, I think it's going to take a few days to kind of get a clear picture.
yeah, that's kind of my read on it is it's like Israel's obviously gotten like leadership, but I'm kind of like like at this point, like, do you not think that they have contingency plans on like what to do? Like, it's honestly probably on autopilot. Like, hey, if so and so dies, regardless, do this. You know what I mean? Like, regardless, send everything at Israel. And like that's why I was kind of thinking like, okay, but like, are you really like, did you really get a win if it doesn't make any meaningful difference?
And what's really crazy is they had like I think it was two different um, Israeli prime ministers get interviewed by I think it was Politico today, and even they were like, "Yeah, the most we can do is like delay their project by like a couple of months, even if like in a best case scenario." And I know that kind of fits with what I've seen U.S. officials say before. It's like, yeah, if we even if we did launch an all out like campaign, the most we could probably do is delay them by a few months. It's one of those situations where it's like, if North Korea can build a nuke, Iran can definitely build a nuke, and there's not really a whole lot you can do to stop it.
Well, and it's interesting because it's like, especially if you did get that major nuclear site is where I think they have all their enrichment or they've done all their enrichment. So it's like if you didn't even get that, like, yeah, like it may even be less than 5 months.
Yeah, well, they were the Israeli officials that interviewed today were saying like a month, so not even 5 months.
Yeah.
And it's like it just me and you were talking about it earlier in the group chat today. It just absolutely baffles me how they thought this was a good idea. I mean, I do not feel like there was any sort of they definitely didn't consider second order effects on this because it's like Trump is really trying to get that deal with China right now. And
Yep.
it's like you literally just burn any credibility you just had as like a good faith negotiator.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's been trying to get the Russians to come to the table with the Ukrainians. I mean, that's just gave them all the ammunition they need to be like, yeah, we don't trust you.
Yeah. Well, wasn't that kind of like I think it was uh I mean Putin kind of alluded to it where he's like I could sign a deal with the US but like then the next administration is going to come in 3 years and it's like well they're going to go back on everything, you know. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, there's just no credibility at this point in foreign policy.
And this is something I keep like noticing, especially. I mean, it's been noticeable for a while, but like especially lately, like after the Ukrainians did that one like drone strike on the Russian air bases, that people were making a big deal about it because Trump had threatened them with like consequences, and it's like, yeah, congrats, you definitely like did damage the Russian bomber force, but it's like the next like a couple of days later, the Russians just do this massive like drone and like missile strike on Ukraine, so it's like you really didn't dent their capabilities. I mean, you're getting these flashy victories, but you're not really altering the balance of power, and that's kind of
Yeah.
the big thing I don't. And like this kind of it kind of gives the same impression so far because it's like, yeah, you didn't get most of the stuff you needed to hit in order to actually like damage the Iranian program, and now there's. I mean, what was really funny. I don't know. I think you saw it earlier, but I think you didn't comment on it, but I think you liked it. Was like I said that thing where like Trump was like released the statement from where he talked to the Saudi Arabians. He's like, yeah, I hope the Iranians come back to the table now, and it's like, dude, they have no reason to come to the table now. Like you've
Well,
pretty much.
and you think a deal in Gaza is going to happen?
Oh no,
Because the
nothing but right
Saudis
now.
and the not the Omanis, but the Saudis, the UAE, and all those kind of Gulf states got to sign off on it. And it's like, you think they're gonna want to do it now? Like,
Well,
bull.
absolutely not. And it's like it's like I said, like there's just no. You get the flashy victory, you get the morale victory, but then at the end of the day, you're still in the same strategic situation, and it absolutely blows my mind how they're not stopping to comprehend this.
Well, and I almost wonder. I don't expect them to, but I'd be curious. Like, you did see like when I was telling you one of the questions I had was, okay, did the U.S. shoot down missiles? And it's now confirmed that they have, right? And
Yeah,
so it's like, okay, so the U.S. has shot down missiles and has shot down all this stuff happening. Okay, so if I'm
we're
Iran,
complicit.
I'm sitting there thinking like you're involved. Like, okay, you
Yeah,
didn't you're not sending missiles to help destroy us, but like you're defending Israel now. You obviously knew about it. You're
yeah,
basically complicit. You're already sending weapons. You know, it's like,
yes,
okay, so like at what point are you not involved? You know?
absolutely. And the Iranians have been saying that. Like they're both like there's been at least twice today they've issued a statement saying like, yeah, we're going to get the United States for this too. We're like they're kind of like prioritizing Israel right now for obvious reasons, but it's like, yeah, we'll get back at the Americans too. And it's like the thing that really blows my mind about this, especially, is remember yesterday when I first started messaging you guys about it because like the first signs were coming out like something was going to happen when they started like evacuating the bases and stuff and like
Yep.
the embassies. They still haven't managed to get all those people out yet.
Oh
So I
no.
mean, like if the Iranians,
That's not a day thing you do. Like it's
yeah,
always, hey, we get a bulk of them out, and then there's always people left. And then even after like even when you have uprisings and all that kind of stuff, it's like, okay, you still have to they still have to go back and get people out. Like Sudan was the same fucking thing.
yeah, and it's like Trump, like dude, you've got all these basically defenseless civilians that are now legitimate targets because they Israelis said they're going to start hitting civilian targets. So I mean, any protection they had's gone, and then it's like I'm sure you've seen like the map showing like Iranian missile ranges and stuff before,
Hmm.
and it's like, yeah, dude, like all these different bases, all these embassies, all of that is in range. Like
Yep.
all of that is a target now,
Yep.
and it just blows my mind. It really just
I
it's
think I'm just like I think one thing that I'm baffled about was it's like, you know, and this is where like we're not gonna know for years. But it's like, what conversations were had for Trump to basically be like, yeah, like this is I know that like I think Israel had been planning this for months, but it was kind of like Trump being like, okay, like, hey, we're not having meaningful conversations, so we're gonna do this. And it makes me think like, okay, so like that conversation was happening. has anyone asked like Saudi Arabia like what they're what they're seeing and what they're feeling about this? Because they're
Yeah,
obviously uneasy. They've always been uneasy about any sort of tension with Iran, but they're also not super friendly to Israel. And like you're saying, like oil prices, like honestly, that kind of benefits them a little bit, but it doesn't benefit them if they can't get their oil out.
yeah. So like the Saudi Arabians issued like a really strong statement earlier, like condemning the Israeli attack. I don't even think they said anything negative about Iran. Like I think I'm not mistaken, they even like acknowledged like the Iranian right to like retaliate, which is very very telling, I think. And then it's just one of those things. It's like you really sit here and so a good friend of mine, his thing he pointed out, which was true. This, there's a lot of indications the Israelis did this, and like we may have known, like in the last little bit, like Trump said, but it almost there's some indications that like Trump was just going along with it because it's Israel, rather than it's like actively being involved in it because we hadn't really built up any forces in the region to like support such an effort. Like it's what's going on right now as far as like part of the reason the U.S. is like indications the U.S. is just doing defensive operations is because we really don't have any forces in the region to do offensive stuff. Like we had recently had like I think it was like two carrier groups in the region because of the Houthis, and then after that ended, we pulled them out.
Yep.
So it's like we don't have any carriers nearby at the moment.
No. Where they're just now sending more destroyers there.
Yeah, so it's like it seems from the indications it really does seem like the U.S. was caught off guard by this. So like I'm kind of really curious. Like I kind of my good friend was kind of making the point. Is like I almost feel like they're just going along with it because it's Trump. It's like Israel that it's like that we really didn't know, but we decided to go along with it because
I
it's
agree,
Israel.
Austin. I agree. I'm
So
not
it's like,
complaining.
all right, cool. Hey, filibuster for me for a few minutes. I'm stopping at gas. So you two just kind of talk for a second.
Yeah, so Josh, I know Austin's kind of been talking a lot about this. So what has been your kind of perspective? I haven't seen you say much. Like what are you kind of seeing is going on? What are you thinking? Like obviously this isn't great for Trump politically with everything going on, but like what are you thinking and feeling on this?
I mean, we told them not to do that. Like, like we told Israel not to do that.
Yeah.
um, but personally, I mean, I will. I personally, I stand with Israel. I stand with like the state. Uh, I do not stand with their government. Uh,
Yep.
I do not think they.
Or acting in the best interest
Uh, what?
are not acting in the best interest of everyone.
No, not at all. And they're stupid, dude. I think it's a lot of it's just like Israel. Just like I think they like know that like they have like kind of a religious hold on America where it's like they can just reach their hand out and it's like, hey, you got me right. Like you got my back.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
you
get it.
you probably know about this, but like, dude, when this shit was happening, I got on Facebook and there were people from like the up in the Tri Cities and everything like that being like people were posting like this is the end of times,
Yeah.
this is the mark of the beast with Iran and like going super like oh my God like super like end world end of time Christian shit. And I was like what the fuck like
I mean, in
people.
like in theory, like if you're going by the Bible, they are right. Um, but like I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know when the end of times is. Like that's a the
That's
God
beyond
thing,
you.
huh?
That's beyond you.
I mean, yeah, it's just like, dude, like it's one of those things. Like I just, like, I don't know. It's just, one day it's God's gonna be ready. It's like I don't know, but like according, like if you're like one of them, like especially like you get up here in the Tri Cities and the Bible Belt buckle, dude, like yeah, like this is one of the signs from it, and according to it, people that stand with Israel are gonna be a okay.
Yeah.
Um, So do with that information whatever they will. Like I said, I stand with the state and the country. I do not stand with that government though. I'll be honest, I have not been the biggest fan of funding their country.
Yeah.
Like zero.
Well, and that's why I just don't understand this because it's like it'd be one thing if like Israel wasn't tied to us. And it's like, okay, you're going out there, you're having this conflict with Iran, like that's not great, but like I can understand why you're doing it. But like I saw this picture that I think just summarized it completely, where it was like missiles coming down and it was like my tax dollars. Like Iranian missiles coming down, that were like my tax dollars. And then it was like missiles from Israel going to those other missiles being like also my tax dollars. And it's like we're literally like paying for all of this shit that be happening. And I know for like a lot of people they're like fuck that. Like I'm not in for that. And so they're like we should have never done this.
Oh yeah.
Um what do you like I don't want to get your like what do you think will happen, but like what do you think is going to be kind of the conversation about all this kind of like beyond in a week or in a month? Like, do you think this is going to become a bigger deal, or do you think it's going to be like going to kind of
Yes.
be lost? Like how and like obviously you've got elections and you've got all these things kind of happening. Um,
Um, to answer your question, yes, I do think it's a big deal.
okay,
Depending on how the next little bit goes, we could. I mean, this could have kind of gear started World War III.
yeah.
I mean, in theory, me and you could be strapping the boots up, dude.
I'm think what I'm like 28, so I'm on the upper end of like what you would draft. And so
Hey,
I,
they don't
I always
matter.
made
They
this
don't
joke
matter,
with like,
sir. They drafted 30-year-olds.
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
That's what
well,
they did.
but here's the thing. Here's the last part I was going to say, Austin. I have got some friends, and I said, man, I would really hate to be a physically fit military aged male right now, because yeah, we're of age, but like we're not going to be the first ones to get picked. They're going to be like, okay, it's going to take 6 months to get this guy down to a weight that we would even draft. So they're like, okay, like we'll wait on that.
how you used to eat,
Dad
man.
bods for the win.
Yeah, that's what I was like. It's like man, it's a good thing to be fat
I'm
now because
screwed.
they're not gonna draft us.
Yeah, I'm
You
so
think if you got
screwed,
to get
bro.
some obese people, like you're not gonna like you gotta get them on a diet, you gotta get them to lose hundreds of pounds before you even send them off to war.
Dude, I'm so screwed, bro.
Yeah, dude, Austin, no, Austin, Josh, you're the fucked. You're just the one.
Yeah, dude, I'm going, dude. I've like
Wait,
accepted
We'll
the
we'll send you
fate.
letters and like we'll send you like the nudie mags and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I'm talking
You can
about,
adopt a
mate.
kid.
Yeah. I'll get like you give me like just like a little care package like every 2 months, dude.
Well, honestly, dude, you're like Congress people, so you honestly just get like a
Get
desk
like an
job.
exemption. Get like an exemption.
No, well, don't do that. I'm saying if they're gonna take you, they're gonna take you. But I'm just saying like get in like as like a in like the general staff or something like here in DC. Like don't
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
go. We
Yes,
we, we don't
sir.
want you to die.
I don't want to
but
die. Are you kidding,
uh,
dude?
to cut in real fast, uh, the Iranian like airstrikes in Tel Aviv are like really picking up steam. So there's reports that like let me pull it up here. I don't want to butcher it too bad. Nevatium, Palmatium, and Ramat David air bases have supposedly been hit. I heard Nevadium earlier, so that kind of tracks. And then Hebrew media is reporting that there's been a very important strategic target in Tel Aviv struck, but they've not specified which target. So if I had to take a guess, they probably hit another bunker, like another command and control bunker, or they definitely like, yeah, I would kind of assume that it could be the headquarters again. They may have actually destroyed it this time. But the footage and videos coming out like it's pretty intense. It looks like the whole skyline in Tel Aviv looks like it's blazing at the moment.
So one thing, Austin, that I wanted to get your perspective on is of all the people they had mentioned that they had killed, none of them or there's no indication that I've seen that they tried to go after Khomeini. Why is that?
Well, they did earlier. There was apparently some pretty intense like attempted strikes on like the neighborhood he lives in, and like there was reports that like the Iranian air defenses were like really trying to concentrate on that area. So I mean, they definitely tried something, but I think part of it too is if you take out so much of a nation's command and control structure, like I know for the U.S., like we've got like contingency planning for that. So it's like if command and control fully breaks down the U.S., like it's pretty much everybody just go do whatever, like everybody attack at once, like just do whatever you can to like get like counterattack. And I kind of think that that might be the concern here because like the Iranians have always been very cautious at the top levels. Like they pull their punches a lot. So I think part of the fear here is like if we completely decapitate their government, assuming that that's possible, like at that point, like you're going to have like these mid-level Iranian guards commanders that have absolutely no like fucks to give, and they're going to, I mean, they're just going to order all-out attacks. And two, if like Tehran is not like containing its proxies, like we've seen before, like especially the Iraqi groups, they'll go crazy and they'll just like start fighting like it's nothing. So I mean, probably part of the concern is like if we do that, what comes next? And then that's a pretty big fear because like you can't really call off the dogs at that point if there's nobody to like control them.
Do you think there's a concern of making Khomeini a martyr?
Oh, for sure. I mean that there too is probably a really good point because it's like Khomeini's an old guy at this point. I mean he's not really he doesn't inspire kind of the anger, like say a guy like Soleimani or something does because he's just he's the old religious leader of the country. I mean, so there's that, and then two, it's just like I said, like you don't like. There's a reason the U.S. has like a policy not to target like heads of state because it's you don't want to decapitate governments then force them to go, unleash everything because at that point it's like it's use it or lose it is the way
Yeah.
I think it's U.S. doctrine calls it. So yeah, I think they're and then too, like I said, apparently they did try supposedly earlier. I haven't seen like geolocated videos to confirm it, but I could kind of believe it. So I mean, they could have tried and failed. So there's that angle of it too.
Yeah. Do you think do you think and we'll kind of wrap this up here soon. Do you think that an uprising will actually occur in Iran?
Uh, so far I've seen no indications of it. I mean, like I said earlier, the different like dissident groups have put out a joint statement calling for an uprising, and apparently the Israelis did. Part of the reason this attack, the Israelis had agents on the ground that were like conducting like sabotage missions. So I mean, it's definitely possible you could see isolated uprisings, but so far I've not seen any indications of like a general uprising. Like so far, the response seems to be like, you know, they attacked us. This was unprovoked. Like rally around the flag kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Like there's been so many videos come out like the last couple hours of like Iranians like gathering in the streets like chanting like death to Israel and like there was a couple of videos earlier tracking like Israeli missiles. So I mean, so far the response seems to be like anger, which I mean, like we said earlier, go figure. You basically do a Pearl Harbor country, and what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
But I mean, if this drags on and it gets like really costly, I mean that dynamic could change. But so far there's no signs of it. Now, like if the Israelis do get the upper hand and really start, inflicting damage on Iran, hard to say. But as of right now, I would say no.
So, last thing that I'm curious about. Um, Iran has been supplying the Russian war with a lot of um a lot of the drones. Now that they are having to use a lot of those missiles and drones and everything like that, do we expect to see that roll over into that conflict of like just a lack of supply to initiate a lot of this? Because I know you were saying that they had sent a lot of drones from Russia to Ukraine. I think particularly after the bombing incident. So it's just kind of like, okay, like, so do we expect there to be some depletion of supplies? Obviously, they're going to have plenty of supplies in the near term, but what about the long term?
As of right now, I would say no. When the Iranians started supplying the Russians back in 2022, the Russians got them to agree to a licensing deal. So basically, now a lot of the drones the Russians do that are like Iranian origin, they build themselves. They just license. They basically just license to produce the same type, basically. So I really doubt we'll see much of an impact on Russian supplies. Now, the big thing too to think about this though is oil. I said it in the group chat a second ago. Oil is now up like 15% or so. So I mean that level of like it's going to help the Russians because it basically makes their oil supplies like the oil they do sell higher in value, so more revenues. This may actually be a benefit to the Russian war effort, honestly.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, that's about all I got. I think, unless, I'll throw it to you, Josh. Anything you want to talk about with this before we wrap it up?
Um, Nothing really on my mind. I think we kind of got everything there.
Yeah.
It's kind of something that we kind of did like a little impromptu 'cause it just happened, but I'll be interested to see what happens. Like you said, Andrew, I'm interested to see like the different timelines of this. Like I want to see, a week from now. I want to see a month from now. Um, but I mean, like I said, I'm interested to see just how powerful this fuse that they already lit is going to go. So I don't really have anything else. I just kind of want to watch it for a minute.
Yep. What about you, Austin?
Biggest thing I want to know is why now? Like, why all of a sudden? Because like we said earlier, like the U.S. didn't even have a chance to get all of its dependents out of the region. We don't really have any forces in the region. So, like, what caused the Israelis to decide like this? We have to do it like right now. There's got to be something to that because it's like get them to strike this early. Unless the only thing I can think of is either A, they thought the Iranians were going to catch on that this was all a ruse and then start taking precautions, or B, like there had to be something they saw in like the intelligence data they were getting that just made them like, okay, we got to do it like right now.
Well,
And
I think the answer to that is what the IAEA said, right? They were like, Israel or Iran is no longer complying with the sanctions and agreements that they had. I think that was probably the fuse.
that's probably I kind of wonder if like this is probably going to be something that's going to take us a few years to find out. So I doubt we'll know anytime soon. But like I kind of with on that note, I kind of do. I was going to suggest like I do wonder if like the Iranians were like, you know what, like they're being like, we don't trust them. This is just like they're pulling our leg. Like, okay, let's actually build a nuke. And I kind of wonder if that was the situation as it was, like, because like they had been negotiating, and like even a few weeks ago, like their top negotiator was like, yeah, we're probably going to sign a deal with the U.S. And all of a sudden, like the U.S. started like reneging on like some previously established points, and then the Iranians started taking like a harder line according to like the U.S. delegation. So something happened in those talks that made like I kind of feel like the Iranians like when we started reneging on like some of the points we had previously made, like
Right.
so I kind of feel like that was kind of the Iranians were like, okay, these people are not being serious, so maybe we actually do need to build a nuke, and then that kind of like a domino effect at that point. But that's probably going to be something that's going to take. I would say it'll probably be a couple of years before we know anything for sure on that.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is with I think it's the IAEA or whatever it is. Um, you know, when I saw that when I had heard people saying that, it almost made me think this is another Iraq war situation where, oh, this international, they throw out some international group, or some, oh, they're not complying with whatever it is, that's why we got to go in. And that is almost what it reminded me of. And
Yeah,
it made me sit there and think, like, Israel would look at this and say, look, you've got the whole UN and all these people don't like them for all this Gaza stuff and calling them, uh, genocidal maniacs and all this other kind of stuff, and you can have your opinion on that. But it was kind of like, well, when that same kind of international organization is now saying that, like, oh, we're going, they're not complying. I feel like that kind of maybe gave Israel like the green light, being like, okay, like the international people above us are saying they're not complying, we're going in and we're going to do something about it. But it
yeah, I
almost
think
makes me think like that doesn't mean that Israel didn't put its thumb on the scale, or didn't know, or didn't wasn't supplying information to prove that they aren't complying with the rules. You know what I mean? So,
and on that note, like it did come out like I think it was either earlier today or last night that the Israelis have been playing this for like 8 months, is what
yep,
they claim. So it's like, yeah, this wasn't something like there was thought behind this. Now, what caused you to like do it this suddenly? That may be something different, but like this wasn't like, haha, we just had to go right now. I mean, there's it's one of those situations where we're going to find out a lot in probably like 10 years or something.
yep. Okay. All right. Well, let's leave it there. If anything crazy happens tomorrow, maybe we'll have another impromptu. But I think
I
we
agree.
think we kind of know what's going on, and we'll see what happens.
Sounds good. All right, stopping here
Thanks,
and Joe.
guys.